Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a follow-up video to yesterday's video on Comicsgate and the lost art of storytelling. And the basic premise of that video, there's a link up in the top right-hand corner if you happen to have missed it, but was that you approach storytelling with the goal to tell a story, not to preach a message. And all of your own beliefs and values as a writer, as an artist, for the art, all of that is going to come out in an organic way if you're doing it correctly. But we talked about how a lot of comic book creators, especially at Marvel today, aren't really doing that, and got into a lot of specifics about storytelling and some terminology and stuff like that. So check out that video. For examples in that video, though, I was using a lot of the examples from Marvel's comics today, or in the last year or two or whatever, that were really examples of poor storytelling, examples of trying to preach a message rather than tell a story, trying to prescribe values rather than present them. So I wanted to at least provide a couple of examples where I feel that stories were written quite well about what could be sensitive subject matter, what could very easily be highly politicized subject matter, but it turned out being, in my opinion, well-told stories. So I had the two titles before you that I'm going to use for examples, and this isn't and I'm not trying to get into a debate about the merits of either of these stories. I know that some people feel very strongly against the Marvel Civil War event, for example, and this is the original Civil War, not the Civil War II that they did. But I do want to use these as examples, I think, of how to properly take all of the cultural anxieties from a society at the time and recontextualize them in a fictional story, especially in this sense of comic books with our mythological heroes and such, so that you can present the matter in different ways and help us to rethink it in different ways. And you're not really preaching it to us, but you're just showing us both sides in a new light, and then you leave it to us to make the decision as readers. So the first example is, we'll start with Marvel Civil War here. And remember that Marvel Civil War came out in the 2000s, and this was after 9/11, of course, and this was after the Patriot Act was in effect. So you had people in our culture already arguing and debating in our political culture and our political climate whether or not we should give up certain freedoms to have more security. Right? That was the big debate about the Patriot Act, giving the government all of this power for surveillance, for detaining people and all of this stuff to counteract terrorism for the sake of safety, but was it worth it to give up all of those freedoms in order to do that and all of those rights and such? So that was the debate going on in the country. So the comic book event could have easily taken that and just latched onto one side or the other and really just got all preachy with it, but it didn't. And I really admire that. Again, I enjoyed the story, but even if you don't like the story, I think that you can admire the fact that they didn't take a thinly veiled issue like the Patriot Act and place it in the story. They developed a story and an issue that would be organic to their universe, which is the Superhero Registration Act. So they're not talking about terrorism. They're not talking about government surveillance or anything like that. They're talking about the danger of everybody with superpowers and how superpowers should register with the government their identities, their abilities, and then the government should be the one to place them on missions and tell them who the villains are and send them out and such like that. So a great example there of an issue that is organic to the comic book universe, especially for Marvel, who's already set the precedent for people being a little bit wary of the damage and destruction and such that superhero battles often cause and everything like that. So that was a good place to start there. And additionally with this story is, in the end, the writer, the story itself, does not take a position on this issue one way or the other. And I won't ruin it for you if you've never actually read the comic book event. If you've only seen the movie or something, for example, go back and read the comics. It's a lot different than the movie. And I love the movie too, but the outcome in the end and everything, it's really great stuff. And the way it ends, it still allows you to make up your own mind about this situation and allows you to make your own connections between this and everything that was going on in the real world, both then and now, because that's always something to be debated about how much power should the government have and so forth, about a number of different issues and points. So this is a really great piece. I just thought it was a wonderful example of how comic books as mythology can reflect the anxieties, can reflect the issues that a culture is dealing with. You don't just ignore it. You don't just always have to be pure escapism and nothing but just fun fiction that doesn't mean anything and has no weight whatsoever. You know, comic books have evolved past that. They are mythology now, so they should reflect, but they need to do so, like I said in the last time, in an organic way that recontextualizes, that presents instead of preaches or prescribes, and helps us to rethink of these issues in new lights and try to come to new conclusions, whether we're going to change our mind or whether we're just going to understand and more deeply understand our own. So a great example there with Marvel Civil War. I could do a whole video on that, so I won't get into that too much more. But I did want to provide one more example here quickly. And this is a recent run, Nightwing: The New Order. And there's a couple more. I think there's 2 more issues out I have as well. So it's this six issue series, and it's a sort of a what if kind of almost like an Elseworlds type story. It's not set in main continuity. It's set in the future, and the basic premise is that Nightwing, something has happened, and there's a lot of destruction going on in the superhero world, and there's a major battle being fought in Metropolis, and the superheroes and supervillains are just clashing against each other, causing all of this battle, and Nightwing has this access to this weapon, this thing that he explodes, that takes away people's superpowers. And most people's superpowers anyway. There are still a few holdouts on Earth here and there that the explosion thing doesn't work on. So Nightwing starts this basic new world order, and the government outlaws superpowers in the United States, and Nightwing is in charge of the Gotham Knights, I think they're called, which is like a special police task force that is out there going after superpowers, and those individuals who still have superpowers have to take inhibitor drugs and all this stuff. So it's a really, you can see a lot of different tie-ins to issues, political issues of any time, really. And in issue 2, see if I can find it here, they even, so you got some protesters when Nightwing's son is recounting some of the things that have happened to get us up to this point in this continuity, and he talks about the protesting of superpowers there. And look at the signs, okay, so no more powers, nothing smart, super about powers, blah, blah, blah. And then over here on this side, powers don't kill people, save us. So that's clearly a reference to the common message that's given about gun control for gun rights advocates. Guns don't kill people, people kill people, right? You see that a lot there. Now, that could have gone horribly wrong here. This could be a horrible example of good storytelling. It could be an example of what I was talking about, where you take a comic book story and just use it to preach, the writer's own political message. But it didn't do that. That's as far as that similarity goes there, because the context of the story isn't such that's clearly cut allegory like that. It's not like those who are against superpowers are the good guys, just like, the good liberals in America who would be against, guns and for gun control or something like that. It's not like that. It's not reducing the issue in the comic book or even in the real world. So instead, you've got this fleshing out of either side, and you've got people making decent arguments on either side why superheroes and superpowers are dangerous, and then why it's a horrid travesty of injustice to try to take away someone's powers and to try to police one's nature and police one's biology like that. A number of different issues, far more than just gun control, comes into play here. Genetic designer genes, biological engineering. You could even draw parallels to trans rights and stuff like that. But the point is that this is not allegory. This is not a thinly veiled excuse for the writers to preach their positions on any one of those issues. It's a great way to take all of those types of issues and recontextualize them into this fictional story here, in which a world with superpowers is now outlawing superpowers. And that's great, because then you can take any one of those issues that you might find a connection with and really look at it in a different way because of the way this story is told, and figure out things you never would have thought of before or never would have realized. So I just wanted to give a couple of great examples of ways to do this correctly. And we got one from both Marvel and DC here. So it can be done. And again, check out that other video if you haven't already. I lay out all the terminology and do the real specific argument there. Today, I just wanted to provide some positive examples of what we need to get back to, what we still have here, because this is a current DC title. What I would like to see Marvel get back to doing as well, though, in terms of these type of stories. So thanks for sticking around. Please do subscribe, like, and share the videos. The channel is growing nicely, and I'd like to continue that. You will see a link there for my book, which is for sale, on superheroes and the inspirations they provide for our daily lives. That's available from Hero House Publishing. Click the bell to be notified when another video goes up, and I will post again very soon. Until then, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the superhero stories you love. Thanks for watching.